Everyone believed Nurse Ifunanya worked out of pure passion, but the truth was far more complicated. Umunique Primary Health Center was never short of patients, but it was short of hands. The presence of broken beds, outdated equipment, and a generator that behaved like a stubborn child were normal. What was not normal was Ifunanya's willingness to carry everything alone. Ifunanya was a senior nurse in the primary health care. She was beautiful, skilled, and dangerously committed. She arrived first but always left last. When women went into labor at midnight, they called her. When malaria shook grown men into silence, they called her. When accidents happened on bush roads, they didn't ask who was on duty. They asked for Ifunanya. Initially it looked like passion, but soon the villagers began to see it for what it truly was. Although Ifunanya had a fair pay for her level at work, it barely survived the month. She always had needs to meet. But the incentives that came from the villagers fueled her passion. Palm oil came in gallons, thick and red. Wrappers came folded with care. Yams, chickens, bags of rice, cash tucked into handshakes. Gratitude spoke many languages in Umunique. She never demanded anything openly. She didn't need to, but her gesture said it all. Those who appreciated her received warmth that lingered, gentler voices, extra checkups, faster attention. While those who didn't bring anything, something changed in her attitude the next time they returned. She would distance herself, and when they called for her attention she would bark. "Why on earth are you disturbing me? Sit and wait. I'll get to you. Can't you see I'm busy?" She would say, even when she is just seated sipping a cup of tea. Soon the people saw through her. But they said nothing. Because in Umunique, you don't offend the woman who held life between her fingers. But at home, Ifunanya was always absent. Her husband Chibuzo didn't like how she buried herself in her job. He also observed that she was losing herself. She had frequent headaches, and she became so irritable. He also noticed the way she fell asleep mid-conversation. One evening, as rain drummed softly on the zinc roof, Chibuzo finally spoke. "You're disappearing," he said, gently but firmly. "Not dying. Disappearing." Ifunanya barely looked up as she loosened her shoes. "I'm fine." "That's what you always say," he replied. "You care for patients but you are gradually losing yourself. You should slow down." The words landed hard, but Ifunanya hardened herself. "This job is not a joke," she said. "People die if we slow down." Somto, their younger child, held her by her shirt. "Mommy, will you come to my school tomorrow? The proprietress wants to see our parents tomorrow." She hesitated. "I'll try." Chibuzo sighed. "You always try. You never come." That was when Ifunanya snapped. "I took an oath," she said sharply. "An oath to save lives. I didn't promise comfort. I didn't promise rest. If I sit at home and someone dies, will you forgive me?" The room fell silent. The children withdrew. Chibuzo said nothing more, and Ifunanya mistook that silence for understanding. At the clinic, the pace only intensified. 2 nurses applied for transfer. Another went on maternity leave. The workload doubled, and Ifunanya absorbed it without hesitation. Her body protested quietly at first: dizziness, back pain, tremors in her hands. She dismissed them with painkillers and pride. "After this month, I will get proper treatment," she told herself. "After this emergency. After this delivery." There was always another reason. The clinic maintained its busy reputation. Malaria cases flooded in. And Nurse Ifunanya was at the center of it all. And of course, the incentives poured in, and Ifunanya loved it. One hot afternoon, a pickup truck screeched into the compound. Motsi Ekozona, wealthy, influential, bleeding heavily from a machete wound, was carried in. Immediately Ifunanya saw he was a man of status, she ran there wearing her gloves urgently. "Give way!" she shouted. She took charge immediately, adrenaline pushing her beyond reason. Blood soaked her gloves. Instructions flew from her mouth. Suddenly, she felt the room spun before her, but she refused to acknowledge it. Nurse Sharon noticed how she stopped walking and stood for some seconds, and she asked, "Nurse Ifunanya, are you okay?" "I'm fine," Ifunanya said. "Let's walk." But as she bent to apply pressure on the patient's wound, the ward tilted, her knees buckled. The last thing she heard was someone calling her name, not in respect, but in fear. She woke up as a patient. The clinic bed felt wrong beneath her. Diagnosis: severe exhaustion, dehydration, dangerously low blood pressure. The doctor's words were firm. "You're not a machine. You should slow down." She was sent home. For the first time in years, Ifunanya returned home early. When her husband asked her why she returned early, she simply said she was asked to go home. She never told him she had collapsed. That night, her phone buzzed. It was a message from the ward supervisor. "Nurse Ifunanya, we were informed about today's incident. For your health and safety, please take 1 week off to rest. The clinic will make temporary arrangements." Ifunanya read it twice, 1 whole week. "And who gets all the gratitude and gifts while I'm away?" "No way." She typed back quickly. "Thank you. I'm fine now. There's no need. I'll resume tomorrow." The whole hospital was shocked at her response. Ifunanya ignored the advice, the doctor's warning, the committee's message, her husband's quiet plea. The next day after collapsing, she returned to work. Her body had not recovered, but her pride was louder than pain. By mid-morning, her vision blurred again. This time, she didn't make it to a chair. She collapsed in the corridor, right in front of waiting patients. There was no debate after that. She was admitted, this time not as a staff member who fainted, but as a patient who refused to listen. Her husband rushed in as soon as he heard. He sat by her bedside wondering why she would refuse to rest even when asked to. For 1 full week, Ifunanya lay in the same hospital she had ruled for years, watched over by nurses she once supervised. She hated every second of it. After her discharge, she was forced to stay home. No arguments, no negotiation. "Another collapse might not forgive you," the doctor said flatly. At the clinic, her absence became conversation. 2 nurses stood by the nurses' station one afternoon, lowering their voices. "She's very passionate," one said. "That woman lives for that job." The other nurse scoffed softly. "Passionate? Or she loves the gift and praises that comes with it. Watch how some patients relax now that she's not around." The first nurse said nothing more. She was too shocked to. At home, Ifunanya was restless. Each morning, she dressed unconsciously, then remembered she had nowhere to go. She paced the house, checking her phone repeatedly. What if things are not going well? She muttered daily, what if patients are suffering? What if they need me and I'm not there? But beneath those thoughts was another worry she refused to voice. The gifts, the palm oil, the wrappers, the quiet cash slipped into her hands. Every day at home felt like loss. She complained endlessly. The clinic will be disorganized. People will wait endlessly. Nothing works when I'm not there. Her husband listened at first. Then he stopped responding. The children avoided the room when she began lamenting. You're home but not present, Chibuzo finally said one evening. You sound angry that life is moving without you. Stop behaving like you feed the whole family with this job. I work too. Ifunanya snapped back. His words hurt her. 2 weeks later, she returned to work. Ifunanya expected celebration, applause, and a warm welcome back. Instead, she was summoned straight to the matron's office. The tone of the one who carried the message wasn't palatable. Her stomach tightened. Inside the office sat the senior matron, a health supervisor, and a folder on the table. "We received complaints during your absence," the matron began calmly. Ifunanya blinked. "Complaints?" "Yes," the supervisor said. "Patients spoke freely when you were away." Her chest tightened. "They said your attitude changed depending on what they brought," the matron continued. "Those who couldn't give felt neglected. Those who gave said they were tired because they felt pressured because your body language demanded the gift." Silence filled the room. Then came the question, "Is it true?" Ifunanya's heart raced. Her denial came fast, almost rehearsed. "No, Ma," she said, standing straight before the senior matron and the supervisor. "I treat all patients equally. I have never demanded anything from anyone." Her voice was steady, but her palms were damp. The matron did not argue. She only nodded and closed the file. "All right," she said calmly. "We will conclude our investigations." That was all. No shouting, no accusation, and somehow, that silence unsettled Ifunanya more than any rebuke would have. From that day, fear entered Nurse Ifunanya. She began refusing gifts, not out of sudden virtue, not because her heart had changed, but because her job now trembled before her eyes. The next day, a woman tried to slip palm oil into her bag. Ifunanya stiffened and pushed it back gently. No, it's not necessary. I'm only doing my job," she said, forcing a smile. Inside, she burned. Every wrapper refused felt like loss. Every chicken turned away felt like punishment. But she could not risk being seen. The investigations moved quietly but thoroughly. Patients were invited at different times. Nurses were questioned separately. Records were checked. Evidences emerged, too neat to deny, too consistent to explain away. Some patients spoke with relief. "When you have something," she smiles. One said, "When you don't, you become invisible." Another added, even nurses testified, she never asked the patients for gifts outrightly. A junior nurse admitted, almost apologetically. But she sure made them feel they owed her. By the time Ifunanya was summoned again, she already knew. The decision was delivered without drama. She was relieved of sensitive duties. She was demoted. She was placed under direct supervision, not under a matron, but under a nurse who had once taken instructions from her. Nurse Sharon. Worse still, a new rule was pinned boldly on the notice board. No nurse is permitted to accept gifts or incentives from patients in exchange for care. Any appreciation must not influence treatment or priority. Defaulters will be sanctioned. The policy applied to everyone, but everyone knew who it was written for. Ifunanya felt reduced, her steps grew heavier. Her shoulders curved. The clinic that once bent around her now flowed without her permission. Decisions were no longer hers to make. The loss of control stung deeper than the demotion itself. What hurt her most, however, was the waiting room. She expected patients to search for her, expected whispers, expected relief when she appeared, but patients came and sat calmly. They called other nurses to attend to them. They smiled freely, because no one pressured them to give any more. No one asked, "Where is Nurse Ifunanya?" No one waited for her. Nurse Ifunanya felt something twist inside her. She finally saw her flaws. They didn't give because they loved her, she realized slowly. They gave because they read her like a book. Her body language, her pauses, and her silences, she felt terrible. At home, she became more present. She no longer left before dawn or returned after dark. She ate meals properly. She rested when her body asked. Her headaches reduced, her health picked up and her temper softened. Her children noticed first. "Mommy, you're home now," Adi said one evening, surprised. "Yes," Ifunanya replied, unsure how to explain it herself. Chibuzo watched her quietly for days before finally speaking. "What changed?" he said. "You are now available," she nodded. "I suddenly realized what my priority should be," she simply said. She couldn't bring herself to tell him the truth about why she changed. The house healed with her presence. Laughter returned slowly, cautiously, like a guest returning after a long travel. At work, Ifunanya stopped overreaching. She did her duties and stopped there. She followed instructions. She treated patients without expectation. The hunger that once drove her, the craving for gifts, praise, importance, began to quiet, not because she was suddenly noble, but because she finally saw herself clearly. She had mistaken greed for passion, validation for service, and control for purpose. She was still a nurse, but she was no longer the center of the clinic. Now this isn't just about a nurse. This cuts across every work that brings food to your table, especially one that involves coming in contact with vulnerable people. Don't give out value in the line of duty while expecting something in return, because service loses its meaning when driven by hidden greed. True passion serves without conditions. Appreciation demanded is no longer appreciation, it is manipulation. Also, never allow your work to take the whole of you. When work becomes your identity, collapse is inevitable. Ifunanya learned late, but not too late, that caring for everyone while neglecting yourself is not sacrifice, it is slow self-destruction. If this story stirred something in you, leave us a comment, drop a heart and give us a follow. Thank you for watching.